Welcome to the Mobile Armored Podcast Show, the podcast that transforms into another podcast just with big lasers. I am Adam
pew, pew,
Moore.
Pew, pew.
I'm Adam Moore, and the one with the great sound effects is my co-host and best friend, PJ McNerney. How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing well. I'm very, very excited. This is a M.A.S.K episode to really sink our teeth into. They've all had their own shining facets of an amazing jewel, but we're going to have some fun on this one.
I feel that this one has, of the 4 episodes we've watched so far, some of the best of M.A.S.K and some of the absolute worst of M.A.S.K, all mashed into one. So it is episode 4, the title being Highway to Terror. M.A.S.K tries to retrieve a stash of military plutonium that Venom plans to use to power an earthquake machine. So we open on a military convoy driving through the desert, much like many episodes of M.A.S.K begin, and they encounter Miles Mayhem sitting in the middle of the road on a rocking chair. He says, "I'm a magician, and I'm here to entertain your troops." Then he disappears in a cloud of smoke. Then he appears wearing his mask a few yards away, standing next to Vanessa Warfield. Cliff and Sly then appear in other locations, like also via explosions. And then Miles causes jets of smoke to rise up from the ground. And then suddenly the army guy's like, "Sir, the semi with the plutonium is gone." This is, there's so many things to talk about. Let me start with the rocking chair first. By the way, not the most harebrained idea that Miles has for stopping a military convoy in this episode. I'll point that out. But the rocking chair, how did they get the chair? None of the Venom vehicles has the cargo space to hold a chair. Switchblade doesn't have it. Piranha is a motorcycle with a sidecar. What is Razorback is a Ford Bronco, but it has a laser turret in the back. It cannot fit a chair at all. Where did it come from?
This is like, there's an unspoken conversation that happened ahead of this, which is, Miles is like, okay, we need the rocking chair. Cliff, put it in the back of your car. And he's like, there isn't enough room. He's like, fuck. Sly, put it in your sidecar. And because Sly's probably the only one you could reasonably strap it onto. That or you put it onto Switchblade landing gear, which is not going to go well. And Sly's going to be like, look, we're going to ambush these guys. This seems really theatrical. Do we need to do this? And like Miles is like, this is a fucking power move. We're doing this. Me sitting in a chair in the middle of a highway in the middle of nowhere. That says something. That's weird enough that it's going to stop those army guys.
Yes, it all feels very David Lynch, and I'll point out that it is a very involved scheme for a Venom heist. Usually they just burst in and start shooting. This whole magician act is really out of character for Venom, and I will agree with your Sly Rack's potential line of dialogue, where it's, dude, why do we even need this? We have vehicles with the lasers and rockets. Let's just go in, blow everybody up, and then we'll take the plutonium for ourselves. I don't get it.
The David Lynch thing is a bit of an interesting bit we should probably place temporally for people. At this stage, like, this is a good half decade before Twin Peaks. Mm-hmm. At the time, David Lynch probably would have been most widely known for his version of Dune.
Yeah.
Or maybe Eraserhead prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder, Adam, if we have this backwards, if David Lynch actually feels very M.A.S.K. Like he watched this episode and he was like, yes, that is the weirdness I want to be.
David, if you're listening, we would love to have you on the podcast because I'm starting to see a whole thread of connections where you were inspired by M.A.S.K. for many of your movies going forward. So let's talk about that. But we don't have time because we cut to the Tracker Mansion. Matt's in his computer room talking to Dwayne, a guy who looks like a young Vincent Price, actually. I'm not sure if you picked that up.
Missed that, but you're right.
And Matt asks, "Are you sure it was Venom?" And Dwayne's like, they got complete descriptions of the uniforms and the masks. But frankly, there's a lot of people running around with the uniforms and masks. Are you really sure? Did it happen near a ravine? Say, did you find anyone floating in it?
Did you bring them back here?
Are they in my study? Are they wet? Do they need clothing? Excuse me, Dwayne, I'm busy. But Dwayne tells Matt that they said they were magicians, and Matt has this line, said they were magicians, did they? That's amusing. The only tricks they know are dirty ones. And I would like to refer to Arrested Development, who reminds us that it was an illusion, Matt. A trick is something whores do for money. Miles is an illusionist. He doesn't perform tricks. So listen, who is Dwayne? He seems to be connected to the government somehow. Is he CIA? Is he Defense Intelligence? Is he Department of Transportation? Has the government sanctioned their work?
The best we can tell is at the very least, the government turns a blind eye towards Matt. Like, he knows Matt is doing this. He knows Matt is running a paramilitary group with these advanced technology vehicles that the government does not have, and they're okay with it. It's like, you know what? If it's cool for Knight Rider to do this with a private sector enforcement agency, it's cool for you too, M.A.S.K.
Look, Airwolf has an Apache helicopter, right, that it uses.
Airwolf's actually interesting in the first season because his liaison openly says, hey, the company is going to try to take this from you. So there's always this tension where it's like, hey, we want to work with you, but we're also going to try and figure out how to get Airwolf back. So it had a little bit more edge to it. But you're right. It's, again, like some rogue guy with a really fancy helicopter.
Not to go too far down a tangent, but let's look at the whole 80s. Where, you mentioned Knight Rider, Airwolf, A-Team.
Is it a combination of post-Nixon distrust in the government combined with kind of the zeitgeist of the Reagan era for like, get it done yourself with private industry? I don't know, but you're right. There's this recurring motif where it's these rich, often rich private individuals who were able to go Iron Man on it.
Yeah.
One other thing, though, I want to point out, Matt has a paramilitary group that can go and solve stuff.
Yeah.
Plutonium has been stolen by someone.
Yes.
And Matt is really concerned to check that if it's Venom, because if it's not, I'm not interested. It's, hey, you know what? Matt, are you okay with some other jackasses running around with fucking plutonium? It seems like he's like the army or some intelligence agency is asking you for help. So you should help regardless of whether it's Venom or not.
Well, you know, Matt's got a lot on his mind. He's got a lot to do. He's a billionaire. He's picking up people in ravines and drying them off in his study.
He's got a son to ignore.
He's got a son to ignore. He's got a lot going on. He can't be chasing after every terrorist organization that steals plutonium. But it's Venom. And so the agent selection process begins. And actually, for the most part, at this time, everyone is super chill about leaving, right?
Yeah, they are. Like, they all kind of just get up calmly and just walk away for the most part. There's not this throw a drink in someone's face and then run off. Or abandoning a car in the middle of the street and running off.
Which is still one of my favorites. But so here's the team. Bruce Sato, of course. He's just sitting there designing toys, and he runs off. I love Hondo. Hondo McClane is called up. He's playing football, and he kind of runs for the touchdown, but then he keeps on running, kind of Forrest Gump style. I've got to ask some questions here. He's a teacher, right? Is he playing against the kids? Does he like beating kids at football? Is that how he has fun? I'd like to point out that at least the 3 kids that we see are these like really scrawny white kids.
Yeah, it's a really bizarre scene. If you notice like the real particulars of it when he's running off, he doesn't even get to the end zone. He can clearly get there because it's all open. It's super close. He just throws the ball off. It's like, fuck you. And just runs off in a different direction. That's how little I care about this game with you.
It's just odd for a teacher to play football with the kids, full pads football. But number 3 on the team this time is Brad Turner. And he's actually he's rocking out in the recording studio, which Makes complete sense.
Does.
He's got his sunglasses on. And have you ever noticed that we never see Brad's eyes?
It's a good point.
And side note, does he wear his sunglasses under his mask?
We've seen several cases where the high beams on M.A.S.K vehicles have defeated Venom. So he's trying to be proactive. Look, Matt's not going to fucking put polarization in here. I'm wearing my Ray-Bans.
Next up, Alex Sector. There's an alligator in a cage. So this is very concerning. In the back of his pet shop, he has an alligator in a cage. Just a concrete floor. There's no water. There's no foliage. Call PETA on this guy.
What pet shop is it okay to sell an alligator? It's one of two things. Either he's the vet and has to take care of someone's alligator, like a zoo, in which case he's trapped them in a concrete cage with, you're right, no water, no foliage, or he's selling them illegally. Like you want a real pet? Forget that chihuahua. Let me show you a real pet.
Well, added to that is the fact that he gets the call and then he tosses a giant carrot into the cage with the alligator. At least he closes the cage before he runs away.
I did.
The alligator just sniffs the carrot because that's not what alligators eat. So again, where is PETA? Come after this guy. Whether he's a part of M.A.S.K or not, this guy needs to be called to justice for the way he treats animals. I digress. Next up is Buddy Hawks, our favorite racist. Buddy is fixing a guy's car. He gets the call, and then he hands the wrench to the guy and runs away. Isn't this guy getting his car fixed at Boulder Hill Station? And isn't he going to see or get run over by M.A.S.K when they come rolling out?
This is the other thing, is that everyone else, it's going to take him a good, half an hour at least to get to Boulder Hill Station, right? But he's got plenty of time. He could probably fix this guy's car and move it.
Yeah.
He just doesn't want to work.
Well, you got Brad Turner over here at rock shows, probably banging chicks after the show. And meanwhile, his front is working at a gas station. I'd be pissed off too, frankly.
Yeah. Again, we've covered the sort of daytime rave problem that Brad has.
So next up is Dusty Hayes. This is a big crew, by the way. Dusty Hayes, we cut to him, and he's opening up the pizza place. There's a line out the door, like trying to get into the pizza place. So he opens up the shade, he gets the call, and then he closes the shade. 100% this place is a front. There is no way they make any money. Pizzas never get cooked or delivered, and the place never opens.
There's a massive line, though, of people who want to get in.
Yeah.
I only have one explanation for it. And we've talked a little bit about this before. How do you have people put up with so much BS? Dusty has to be the best fucking pizza guy in the world. Like, the pies he make just blow your mind. You don't know if it's going to open. You don't know if he's going to finish the pizza. It's just, he's a fucking artist.
You don't know if the pizza is going to come out of the oven with a flaming hot knife next to it and a stick of pepperoni. You don't know.
It's the best pizza in the world combined with German expressionism. You just don't understand what is going to happen here.
Sometimes it has hair in it from when it was dropped on the floor.
That's just a commentary from Sartre.
So the final member of the team, I always love it when she shows up, Gloria Baker, the black belt in Kung Fu. So we find her, and she's at the dojo fighting with this huge guy. She gets the call, and without a single problem, she flips the guy onto his back and then kind of winks at him. It's like clearly they're both into this. Like, they're into this kind of thing.
Okay, hold on. We only see her face. And what I noticed a little thing is she elbows him and then flips him.
Yeah.
And we know clearly Gloria is into that sort of thing. Is the other guy? Maybe he's afraid to say no. Like, this kung fu master is able to kick the shit, and he's a towering guy. Yeah. This is not a small human being. And Gloria just basically destroys him. What is the power dynamic? We don't know.
I feel like Matt and Gloria would be a real good match. I just feel like they have the right vibe for each other. So I know it never happens in the series, but in my imagination, she and Matt have a good thing going. I think they're both into the same kind of masochistic stuff.
That's the thing, though, is because, like, they both have this kind of, like, domineering physicality to them.
Let's keep watching throughout the series for the subtle hints of a deep, abiding love between the two of them.
Maybe Gloria doesn't want to deal with Scott.
Who does? Speaking of, Scott and T-Bob show up in the secret computer room. And Scott says, Dad, are you going on a mission? Matt says, I'm afraid so, Scott. Scott, of course, wants to go on the mission, but Matt tells Scott he's only going to go halfway. He's going to drop Scott off at Clear Lake with Mr. Spenson. If you look at Scott's face, he has no idea who Mr. Spenson is. Absolutely no idea. And he tries to make a deal with his dad. He's like, if I catch my limit on the first day, will you come and pick me up? And Matt's response is basically, no.
I want to point something out here. Previously, Matt clearly did not give a fuck about where Scott was or what he was doing. Here, Matt has actually proactively arranged for Scott to go to Mr. Spenson's place. And so he's actually being a responsible adult.
Very surprising.
Yeah, it really is.
But then again, what is Mr. Spenson's MO?
I don't know. That's a little scary. I'm going to drop you off to go swimming with a man you may or may not know. It's not a great look again, Matt, in terms of what is going on here. But fortunately, he's got T-Bob to defend him.
Yeah, yes, T-Bob will do a great job defending him. We cut to the underground Venom base, and there's random Venom henchmen in radiation suits stolen from the first episode of the series. And they're loading it into this kind of like Bond villain-esque machine. Meanwhile, Miles, Vanessa, Cliff, and Sly are watching the process from their little sky tower. And Miles says regarding the army captain that they stole it from, if he knew what we were going to do with the plutonium, he wouldn't be too happy. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. You have plutonium. That's it. That's all you have to be unhappy about. It doesn't matter what you're going to do next with it. It's not cool that you have it, period.
If they're using it to fuel a theme park, maybe the captain will be like, well, they stole the weapons-grade plutonium, but it's entertaining kids, so can you really be mad at the guy?
Those kids developed cancer after being on the first roller coaster, though, so maybe plutonium was a bad energy source.
But they had fun, and that's all that matters. Anyways, back to M.A.S.K headquarters. They know where the plutonium is because, as we've established, they are very good at tracking radiation. And Hondo makes the insightful comment, the plutonium is highly radioactive.
So I originally had a comment that he's become Captain Obvious. But I also wonder, do other people not realize this? Maybe he needs to tell them this explicitly, like, look, the plutonium is highly radioactive. It can kill us.
Interesting, Hondo, interesting. Anyways, on with the sacred masking ceremony. And the cylinder rises into the sky, and all eyes gaze skyward as their robotic god delivers the masks from its multi-arms. And everyone gets a high dose of radiation. Did you notice that Matt gets a different mask? He's got all the best powers, and he has multiple masks.
Yeah, and the way I looked at it is like when people complain, he's like, it's my paramilitary group. I'm funding it. You go to hell. I get to do what I want. It's a different mask and a different uniform.
And on top of that, Mask rolls out. It's just Rhino, Condor, Firecracker, and Gator. No Thunderhawk. And Matt is driving Rhino.
It's interesting because you pointed out earlier, it's a pretty big crew, but it's also the smallest number of vehicles. Because Thunderhawk isn't there, and then I can't remember what Gloria's vehicle's name is.
Shark.
Shark. She's riding shotgun with Gator. And Alex, Bruce, Matt,
Scott, and T-Bob
are all in Rhino. They're all piled in there.
With no sign of Alex. Where is Alex?
Best I could think, because Rhino's got that one backward vehicle that can just detach from it. I wonder if Matt, you fucking go back there.
I thought maybe he'd be in like the computer room in the back, but when Rhino isn't transformed, it's kind of like squished. So I picture Alex just kind of being like completely squeezed in. It's pitch dark. He can't move at all. And Matt's like, shut up, Alex.
Maybe the reason Thunderhawk isn't there is that Alex dented Thunderhawk when he was backing Rhino in. And it's like, Alex, into the computer room.
Not again, Matt. Not again.
You get back there like the alligator you keep in that cage.
Well, they arrive at Mr. Spenson's cabin, and there's a joke about how last time T-Bob fell into the lake and he came out covered in fish, which made him look like a can of sardines. And there's uproarious laughter, which goes on a bit too long. Matt keeps on laughing after everyone has stopped. It's as if they're trying to cover up the fact that they have no idea what he's talking about. There is serious stranger danger going on in this scene.
We're going to make up a lie about a memory that was joyful that you had here. Just run with it.
Trying to inception Scott into believing that this man is safe and okay. Anyways, Matt bids a fond farewell to his son and cruises off. M.A.S.K is out in the highway where the army semi-truck disappeared. And did you notice how they're all just kind of chilling out? Bruce is kind of casually leaning against Rhino. Brad is sitting on the back of Condor. It's like a bunch of kids hanging out after school. And Brad, first of all, they're supposed to be investigating. And Brad just kind of looks off at the sky and he says, peaceful as a summer cloud. Okay, we know why Brad is wearing sunglasses. He is stoned out of his mind.
The truth comes out. And it makes sense. He's a musician in Colorado in the 80s.
Look, he's in it for the fun. That's clear.
Well, here's the thing. He's a rock musician. As far as I don't know if he has any other skills besides that, which again, musicians are great. I don't want to take anything away from that.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if I want Van Halen investigating a crime scene. I don't know what is going to be the connection point here. So maybe it's better Brad is just sitting by himself, staring at the sun.
They're investigating, and Bruce says, an illusion is little more than a theft from the eye. And to which Buddy predictably says, what in thunder is he talking about? So there's your Buddy Hawk's racist comment of the week award nominee right there. Matt says he's saying the hand is quicker than the eye, but Buddy doesn't buy it. He kind of cocks his head at Matt. And I got to be honest, Matt's heart really isn't in it. I don't think he even understands it, but he has the decency not to insult Bruce. But anyway, suddenly out of nowhere, there's an earthquake. And Matt runs to Rhino's computers and he finds out that the epicenter is in Central City. Where is that, PJ? I don't know the map of Colorado very well. Where is Central City?
Central City, as far as I know, does not exist as a city today, especially none with as many skyscrapers as possible.
Yeah, it's a big city. There's big 30-story tall skyscrapers.
Yeah, it's huge. And my theory is that in today, Central City does not exist because it was a city in the middle of Colorado before Venom leveled it with an earthquake. And here's my thought process, because I'm not a structural engineer. Let's be really clear. I've got my degrees in computer systems and electrical.
Like Alex Sector.
Like Alex Sector, except I don't abuse animals, okay? That's one of the prime differences.
Indeed.
So every place has got a thing it guards against, okay? And there's also things that just don't happen typically. So New England's got tons of snow. You got A-frame houses. You got salt for the roads. Kansas has got tornadoes. You have underground shelters. LA has earthquakes, and you build accordingly. Colorado basically is just defending against high winds and tourists. When you take a thing that doesn't happen in a place, it's pretty disastrous. When LA has rain, it floods everywhere, and earthquakes in Colorado are disastrous. It liquefies brick. It effectively, if you're not guarding against it, you're done. So those buildings are all gone.
Oh, yeah. When we see the earthquake happen to Central City, it's Godzilla level destruction.
Yeah.
And as you pointed out, it's like mass murder on Venom's part. And I will say it's the first time where I gain respect for them as a terrorist organization. They actually cause damage on a massive scale.
They do. The ground splits, cars are trying to go across it. A building is clearly falling.
A giant
building.
Yes. But meanwhile, back at Rhino, Matt's looking on the computer, and he discovers not only was the epicenter in Central City, but it's underneath the Geological Research Center. And he says, that's odd. And then, did you notice how Bruce and Alex are behind Matt? And Bruce kind of looks at Alex and shrugs. What is he talking about?
There's a lot in that like exchange. Why doesn't Matt get really upset at the idea of an earthquake?
Yeah, he's
Like-
not like, oh, the humanity.
Yeah. And Bruce and Alex are like, whatever. Like, have they gotten so disaffected by Matt at this point in time that they just, Matt is just a rich billionaire eccentric.
Yeah.
He's going to just say shit sometimes, and that's just what it is.
What they do discover, though, is that Venom is at the Geological Research Center.
Yes. But what's going to happen? What is going to happen?
Let's find out after this break.
M.A.S.K will be right back, and so will Venom. Now back to M.A.S.K.
And we're back. An earthquake had just destroyed Central City. M.A.S.K catches up to Venom, who have stolen an unknown box from a building, seemingly using the earthquake as the decoy to draw attention from what they were doing.
I don't know what Miles is thinking at this point in time. Hey, we want to not draw suspicion to ourselves.
Yeah.
Let's create an earthquake whose epicenter is this building. Because clearly people aren't going to be looking at the epicenter for when the earthquake happens to understand what's going on.
But M.A.S.K does show up. They encounter Venom. And I will say that this is probably the best battle we've seen yet. Because a ton of M.A.S.K powers get used. Viper gets fired. And Matt does like this 10 out of 10 gymnastics move.
Yeah.
He does a double flip to get out of the way of Viper being fired. Sly Rax fires Stiletto at Buddy, who uses Penetrator to destabilize his matter so that the bolts fly right through him. That cannot be good for the liver to destabilize your matter like that.
You really don't want to do that. Buddy doesn't have long for this world. It's been interesting to see where those stiletto blades ended up. Did it actually kill someone else off screen? Because he's like, ha, you passed through me. And it's just some innocent bystander who's just now dying in a pool of blood.
205 people died in the earthquake. I mean, 206 people died in the earthquake. But other powers, Vanessa uses Whip, Cliff uses Torch, Dusty uses Backlash to send Torch back at Cliff. And then meanwhile, a mom and a daughter are falling from this balcony. And Gloria uses Aura, Bruce uses Lifter, their lives are saved. There is a lot of M.A.S.K powers going on. It's truly awesome.
There's a really curious thing about Aura in this. I don't quite know what Aura is supposed to be able to do. But if you look at what it does do in the episode, it takes electrical lines and ties them together. They're loose electrical lines all firing off, and then she uses her mask to tie them together. I mean, it's an amazingly powerful, almost nigh telekinetic power.
And quite specific, too. Matt's like, you get the blaster, you get the water thing, you get the thing that ties wires together so they don't create sparks. But at the end of the chase, guess what happens?
Oh no, what's going to happen? They get it. They get Venom, right? They get him. They have to get him.
Venom gets away once again. And Miles fires a rocket into a nearby construction site, and Dusty gets buried in debris. Is this the end of Dusty Hayes?
Oh,
Could it be?
The pizzas he'll never make or never make.
Don't worry, friends. Dusty is okay.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
He's actually rescued by Hondo.
Yeah, we should talk about this one. Hondo's mask, once again, folks, is Blaster. So it does what it says on the label. It blasts things. But Blaster is able to vaporize steel. Like, he fires it, and it's gone.
Not melted, vaporized.
No, vaporized. There are steel particles in the air after that point in time.
Yeah. It's half a mask, because it only covers half his face, but it is a full laser that he's got. But so Dusty survives and regrettably tells Matt that Venom got away. To which Matt says, don't worry. Like, why isn't he worried? The whole goal is to catch Venom. And Matt's like, don't worry about it.
Venom just committed mass murder. They've leveled a city, Matt. Do you want to have a little more agency and urgency here?
That's fine. They always get away. Don't worry about it. It's in the contract. Alex analyzes the device that Venom was trying to steal. And it turns out it's a device that diverts earthquakes away from populated areas into deserts or into other uninhabited areas. What? That technology exists? And also, how do they know that these areas are uninhabited? What about the indigenous tribes or the ancient monks worshiping sacred books in caves that seem to be everywhere in this area of Colorado?
Again, your point is this technology apparently exists, and if it does exist, it did a terrible job because the earthquake happened right where the device was. It was the epicenter.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like, we now know about so many like folks who might live out in the desert. What wanton destruction is going to be caused by that?
The plot truly unravels here. What is Venom trying to do? Are they trying to create earthquakes? Are they trying to send earthquakes wherever they want to? What is Venom actually trying to do? It seems that they already did a pretty big thing, which was to have an earthquake destroy an entire city. What now? That's the midpoint of the episode. But M.A.S.K now realizes that Venom has the ability to create earthquakes. And the question is asked, but why would they need such a thing? And there's this shot where they hold on Matt, like they kind of zoom in on him, and he's thinking for a really long time. What is he thinking about for all that time?
It seems like a really obvious question and answer to me. Like, why does a terrorist organization want to have a weapon of mass destruction?
That's a toughie. Terrorists, mass destruction. We better go home and ask the computer, because I don't know. I can't connect the dots. Bruce, you got anything? No? Can't figure it out.
I guess we'll have to just think about it for a little while. We'll sit and think.
And so we will find out after this break.
Come on, T-Bob. M.A.S.K will be right back. Oh, boy. Back to M.A.S.K.
And we're back, and we're with Scott and T-Bob at the sketchy guy's house in the woods. And they want to go swimming, but all the water in the lake has disappeared. And so Scott calls Matt and tells him about it. And Matt just kind of says, try to make the best of it until I get back. The dude has no interest in talking to his son whatsoever.
Again, I'm glad Matt picked up the phone.
Well, there's no caller ID, so he doesn't actually know it's Scott.
He probably could. He probably has enough where he'd be like, Mr. Spenson's place is probably Scott. All right, let me pick up.
Yeah? What do you want? Oh, the water's gone? I'll try to make the best of it until I get back. When are you coming back? What? Sorry, going through a tunnel. Can't hear you. They go back to M.A.S.K headquarters, so they probably could have picked up Scott and brought him home. But anyways, they're back at M.A.S.K HQ. They once again surmise that Venom can create earthquakes. We know that, guys. Let's move forward with the plot here. And Matt realizes Venom can direct earthquakes to major cities, so they can put themselves on the map as a world power. And Matt says, if that's what they want, why don't we give it to them? And that seems to be M.A.S.K's M.O. anyways. Like, why not?
I wonder, like, is this evidence? Are we starting to see mounting evidence of Matt and Miles being in league with each other?
Speaking of, Venom goes to intercept another convoy on the highway. And this time, instead of using a rocking chair in the middle of the road, Miles and Sly land in the middle of the road in a hot air balloon. What the hell, Miles? Why not just land with Switchblade and open fire? Are you like the P.T. Barnum of supervillains? And making it even odder, the army guy asks him what's going on, and Miles says they ran out of fuel for his balloon. And the army guy says, bring a couple of tanks of propane. What? Does this happen so often on these roads that the army just so happens to carry around spare tanks of propane? What is going on here? And let me also ask, right? They come upon a guy in a military uniform in a beatnik floating around in a hot air balloon. Suspicious? Nah.
So look, we should call out, in the 70s and 80s, Colorado was a weirder place, especially in Boulder. For folks who don't know, that's where they filmed Mork and Mindy. A beatnik and a guy in a uniform in the middle of a desert with a balloon. Army guys probably thought he was on peyote.
Sure.
It's like, these guys, they probably came down from Boulder, so get them some propane and get them on their way. I mean, we see one or two of these jokers every so often.
Not another hot air balloon of tripping hippies. So Miles' plan hinges on the fact that the army guys will be so awestruck by the balloon taking off that they don't notice the semi-tractor trailer truck being lowered into the underground bunker in this hydraulic ramp.
Yes.
Must be one hell of a balloon.
It really is. It's like this underground ramp, this is a heavy semi-truck, but like its back is moved down and then it's rolled backwards. So yeah, Miles had to do it in this one space to get it into his underground lair with an amazingly impressive piece of machinery. Because there's fucking hydraulics and heavy machinery involved. There is no way the Army guys don't hear what is going on. Like we'll learn in a second, this is a Trojan horse maneuver. Matt must have worked with him ahead of time. But it's so weird, the instructions he had to have given. It's like, keep looking up at the balloon in awe. Because the only way this is going to work if Miles is not suspicious. But don't worry, Miles is such a fucking pompous asshole. He's going to think he's mesmerizing you with his balloon. That is the only explanation I've got.
Or the Army guys are also on peyote. and they're like, whoa, man, look at the balloon. How does it do that? As you pointed out, though, it is a Trojan horse maneuver because at Venom's underground lair, they open up the truck and M.A.S.K is inside. It's a trap, says Miles. And I just want to make a note that this semi-truck is able to hold Gator, Firecracker, Condor, and Rhino.
Which is itself a semi.
But we have a good old-fashioned M.A.S.K vehicle battle that breaks out. And like other episodes we've seen so far, this happens underground. It happens so often that these battles are underground. I'm amazed at how their helicopters are able to fly in these caves underground. We've got lots of laser blasts. Brad uses hocus pocus in a very questionable way, causing Sly to crash into the lever that opens the ramp into the bunker. Miles fires a missile at Rhino and accidentally blows up his own earthquake machine. And he flies off saying, "Next time, M.A.S.K, next time." But what's up with their penchant for helicopters flying underground?
It's actually more amazing the more we think about it, because let's look at it. Helicopters are not easy machines to maneuver. They are not like planes. It's very complicated. Caves don't have good lighting, nor are caves particularly tall most of the time. These are gargantuan caverns. And yet still, we have these like very huge pitched battles happening underground. Miles and Brad must be the best helicopter pilots in the world not to have crashed into something.
Yeah, it stretches credibility, as do many things in this show. Venom escapes, surprise. Bruce, though, is the wise voice here, and he says, "Let's go after them." And Matt says, "We can't. We've got to stop the plutonium from leaking." Surely he could have sent some other team members to chase after them, right?
I know we're only 4 episodes in, but it is getting hard to know what Matt cares about less for. Does he care less about catching Venom or taking care of Scott? And right now, since Venom gets away every episode, and yet we've seen Scott thrown a bone once or twice. Like, he hugged him when he thought Scott was dead.
True.
I guess that means Matt actually does care more for Scott than catching Venom.
We are only 4 episodes in. Let us not rush to judgment here.
That's fair. It's a hypothesis. Let's see exactly how well it tests.
We will continue to track it, because I don't actually know if we have a Father of the Year nominee in this episode, except perhaps just dropping Scott off with the sketchy old guy by the lake. That's probably your nominee there.
That's probably our closest one we've got.
But back to the plutonium. Did you notice that the plutonium oozes out of the machine like it's a pile of mud? Like, I never knew that's what plutonium looked like in a solid state.
I don't think anyone did research on what plutonium looks like on a solid state. It's like, let's make it look like sludge.
Yeah, and like Bruce uses lifter to lift it up and like put it in a secure box, exposing everyone to even more radiation. They get plenty from their masks and from their vehicles, so it probably doesn't matter anymore, right?
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. Whatever electromagnetic fields that need to come out of their masks to cause the effects is huge. And it's right on their heads. They're all going to die of brain cancer.
Yeah, true.
Matt also, like, I don't know if he's not thinking this through, but why do they need to put the plutonium back? They're really far away from a population center.
Mm-hmm.
They're underground. And Venom has now proven to be mass murderers.
Yeah.
Why not let the plutonium go for the moment and just go after the mass murderers?
Can I posit a theory?
Yeah.
So they put the plutonium, the muddy plutonium, in a like metal box and close it. I would imagine Matt does struggle from time to time to get that radioactive power source he needs to fuel the vehicles and the masks. So my guess is he realizes, oh, here's a big old chunk of plutonium. I got to get me this. And that way I don't have to pay the Libyans for the plutonium for the next couple months. So that's my theory on why he decides to go for the plutonium.
So he goes back to the army and he's like, yeah, Venom stole it. They still have the plutonium. We stopped the earthquake machine, but Venom, they're the ones that have the plutonium, not me. Venom.
I think he just says like it evaporated or something. Or he gives him the box of like pinball machine parts and whatever. I think the army's got enough plutonium. They just don't care at this point. We never see Dwayne again. And Dwayne is the only person who knows that Venom stole plutonium. Dwayne and the secret of Venom's plutonium might just be lying dead in the ravine.
Sometimes Matt doesn't take stuff out of the ravine. He puts it back in.
Not all secrets end up in Matt's library. This actually might be the least racist episode we've seen so far. Oh. I do think that Buddy wins his namesake award, but good on ya, M.A.S.K writers. You did okay in this episode.
Only one instance of very clear racism.
Yeah. We get to the more you know moment that happens at the end of every episode. And this one is don't dive into shallow water. T-Bob's about to dive into the water, and Scott stops him and says, hey, we don't know how deep this water is. And Matt shows up. Good on you, kid. And Matt looks into the water and says, seems to be about 9 feet, which is safe for diving. I have a question. How is Matt able to tell how deep it is just from looking at it?
Yeah, I had two possibilities, but there's actually one other wrinkle that just occurred to me. Mm-hmm. But the two possibilities is that because he has so much experience with bodies in ravines, he's able to measure the depth of water just by looking at it. The other one is that Matt has no clue and he's just making some shit up because he just wants Scott to drown. And here, early in the episode, they talk about like, oh, if you drain the water from someplace and pump it into a fault, that's how you cause the earthquake. But it occurred to me that if this is the same lake that Scott was at and they've pumped the water back in, all of that muddy silt is just going to cloud the water. I'm certain now that Matt's just making shit up. Scott's doing the right thing. Oh, it's muddy. We don't know how deep it is. And Matt's like, looks like 9 feet. Try it, Scott.
You go first, kid. But also, pointing that out, if they've pumped it all back in from the earthquake machine, hasn't it been exposed to plutonium? And is it now the entire lake heavy water?
Just try it, Scott. It'll be fine.
How come all the fish are dead? It's fine.
It's probably nothing.
This is also the first time that we have a lesson that kind of connects to the contents of the episode.
It is.
So once again, good on you, M.A.S.K writers.
Yeah, thanks for doing that. He was swimming and now it's about water. Okay.
Yeah.
As opposed to he was catching fish and now it's about crossing the street.
Yeah. My final note on this episode, since we're with Scott and T-Bob, is they have pretty much absolutely no use whatsoever in this episode. They're in it very little, but the little they're in it has zero impact on anything that happened. Even the tiny little earthquake information, like all the water's been drained out and that Venom can use that to create earthquakes. They already know. The Scott and T-Bob scenes are just absolutely useless in an episode that's already 22 minutes. They had to add filler. Venom's plot was so bad that they just had to find ways to shove Scott and T-Bob in there just to break things up.
Scott doesn't even get in trouble.
Right.
And the filler that they added, ironically enough, is Matt trying to be a better dad.
Well, that is another amazing episode. of M.A.S.K. Our next episode is episode 5. It's called Video Venom. Venom hypnotizes innocent people through their television sets to hijack a powerful laser cannon and threatens to use it to attack a Texas oil refinery if not paid a hefty ransom. Another clear-cut Venom plot that is completely logical and makes complete sense.
We're going to use television to control people's minds. Wait a second. If you can do that, Venom, why not sell shit? It's going to be way more lucrative for you. But I guess we'll get to that next time.
We sure will. It's been a pleasure hanging with you as always. Can't wait to have you join us on the journey next episode. I am Adam Moore.
And I'm PJ McNerney.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The Mobile Armored Podcast Show is written, produced, and edited by Adam Moore and PJ McNerney.